Thanks for joining me today. So this is class 3 in our fundamental series, and today we're going over backbends and twists. And I've linked these two sections of or types of poses together because of the importance of being mindful of any old injuries or being mindful of our spine in general. So if you have any past herniations, any slip discs, anything like that, this is the class that you need to be really intentional with. So instead of pushing past, oh, this feels a little bit tight and sore, you need to really connect with, is it hurting? Is it uncomfortable because this is building up muscles and flexibility in an area that currently doesn't have any? Or am I pushing past my limits and I'm moving into the area of possibly re-aggravating an old injury? So I want to make sure you get cleared by doctor, physio, whoever that you see for your movement and physical body, to make sure that you're clear for doing some backbending and some twisting. And know that the poses I'm going to start with, I'll start with a little more of a gentle modified, which might not feel gentle and modified to you today, and that's okay. And then I'll work into things that are deeper. And again, play it safe. So less is more. Work within your tolerance. If you feel like, hey, today, oh, this is on the cusp of feeling a little bit tight, probably don't push it any further than that. If you wake up tomorrow and you can't move because you pushed it too far, you can always wake up tomorrow and go, oh, I feel great, or it's a little bit of that traditional muscle soreness after a workout. Maybe tomorrow I can push myself. So err on the side of caution, do a little bit less today so that hopefully you can do more tomorrow, and don't do more today and then none tomorrow, okay? So what we need today is having a few items around that might help you. So I have a little piece of foam, but if you want to grab a towel, this can help when we're doing some back bending to take pressure off of the pubic bone. So we're actually going to start with our back bending right now, and you'll see what I mean. So I recommend maybe having a towel, and you can place that right underneath your pelvis, right underneath your pubic bone. So obviously adjust yourself in whatever way that you need to for your body, and lay down right onto your stomach. So starting with our first back bend, we'll start with a sphinx pose. So sphinx pose, you stack your elbows directly underneath your shoulders, and your elbows are shoulder distance width apart. Your forearms are parallel with the long edges of your mat here. You're rooted into the hands, and then turn the tops of the feet down so your shoelaces are on the floor. Now, this pose, we're not just like relaxing here, gossiping, but we're actually engaged in this pose. So you want to lift the crown of the head up nice and high, like you're trying to reach for the ceiling. Push the earth, push the mat away from you with your elbows. So that'll help lift the chest and elevate the head and chest a little bit here. Also, at the same time, you're sliding the elbows back towards the body as if you were trying to pull yourself forward towards the front of your mat. So we're strong and engaged through the body here, reaching up at the crown of the head. You should feel in your lower back, there's a decent amount of tension. So this is helping to build strength and some flexibility through the lower back, through the hips here. You want to find your belly. We're not collapsing through the lower midsection. We're trying to draw the belly button in towards the spine, engaging through the stomach here, even though it's being stretched. So we're still strong through the core. Find your stomach, find that engagement. Try to pull the belly button in towards the spine. If that feels a little bit difficult to you, it's that action of right before someone came up to tickle you and your whole body contracts. You're doing a little bit of that. Now think about that when you're working. So this might be enough for you. So we'll slowly lower ourselves down. So a way to reset the spine is to lower one cheek down to the floor and then just shake the hips a little bit left and right. And that should hopefully release the muscles of the lower back. And again, pay attention to how you're feeling. If you're feeling like, oh man, that was as deep as I need to go, then that's where you stay. If you're feeling like you wanted to work a little bit deeper, we could work into a seal pose. So you set up exactly like you were going into sphinx, so the forearms are parallel with the long edges of your mat, your elbows are underneath your shoulders, you're squeezing the shoulders back and down away from the ears and hugging the elbows back towards the rib cage. You're lifting up through the head and the chest. Legs are charged, so tops of the feet are down. You can lift the kneecaps and engage through the legs here. Whatever you need to feel some pressure being taken in other areas, just the lower back muscles. So for seal pose, you take your arms so that your forearms are almost on a 45-degree angle. So you take your palms, instead of forearms parallel with the mat, taking them out so that they're on the outside edges of the mat, like towards the corners of your mat. You slowly, with still form and engagement, still long neck, still long chest, begin pushing into the palms so that your head and your chest lifts slightly, so that maybe your elbows and the forearms come up off the mat. So we're not going for straight arms and losing the neck here. So if you find that you try to straighten your arms and you lose your shoulders, then I'd rather you have just a subtle bend in the elbows, and this also engages a lot of core muscle, or a lot of arm muscles as well. So chest and gaze is shifting up. Your neck is long. You can straighten your arms, but again, that moment you feel your shoulder blades want to roll and shift and lose your neck, you pause. So you pause with that little elbow bend, you pause, you find your belly, you find your core, and draw the navel in towards the spine. And then we slowly release down. Take your other cheek down to the mat and gently wiggle the hips a little left and right. And again, remembering that you can stay here for this pose, for this next round. We're going to go a little bit deeper. So taking the head and the gaze forward, this time we're planting the palms right underneath the shoulders. So they're slightly wider than shoulder distance. So planting the palms here, roll the shoulders back down your back. So slide them together and down towards your back, like you're trying to hug your elbows down towards your ribs. From here, begin pushing into the hands, drawing yourself up into a low cobra. So we're using more of our lower back strength here rather than our arms. You could lift your arms off the floor here. This is beginning to just use the activation through our lower spine, through our lower back here, rather than only using our arms. So again, try lifting the chest. You can push with the hands slightly. Keep the shoulders back and down away from the ears. Lift the chest as much as you can. Maybe hover one hand followed by the other. Maybe you feel like, ooh, this is too much, and you go back to sphinx or seal. That's perfectly fine. And then slowly release back out of this pose. Take one cheek down to the mat. Again, wiggle out the hips, release the lower back. So that was a low cobra. We'll work into a higher cobra here. So again, please do not push past an area where you feel, oh yeah, this is too much. Again, do less today to do more tomorrow instead of more today and none tomorrow. So gaze comes forward, hands stack right underneath the shoulders once again. Roll the shoulders back down away from the ears, tops of the feet come down. Again, you might want to charge the legs excessively for this one, trying to lift the kneecaps off the floor. And begin pushing into the palms here. With high cobra, we actually try to straighten the arms a little bit more, but that same thing with seal pose. So go up until you feel that sensation of the moment you try to push higher, your shoulders are going to shrug up to your ears. So maybe your cobra is still a little bit lower. Maybe the arms are still a little bit bent, but instead of winging the elbows out to the side, hug the elbows into the rib cage. You'll notice that if you try to straighten the arms, the tendency is, if you're going to lose your neck and shoulders, is that you shrug up and the elbows come out. So hug the elbows in, shoulders are nice and long. We're lifting up through the crown of the head. We're rooting into the hands here, rooting into the legs. Legs are charged. And begin pushing maybe a little bit deeper, again, within your comfort zone. You're not trying to make your body look exactly like mine. You're working within your own body. So pushing into the palms a little bit here. And again, that action of when we were in Sphinx, trying to hug the elbows into the chest or back towards the pelvis, we're trying to slide ourselves forward here. So using your hands to pull back towards your torso so that you lift your chest and you lift your gaze a little bit more. And then slowly unwinding out of this, taking your other cheek down to the mat. Slowly sway the hips a little left and right. And then the last back bend that we'll be doing for this class is upward facing dog. And so you'll hear this pose called a lot in yoga flow classes. This is a pose that helps link in your sun salutation. But know that if you feel like this is too much arm strength, too much back flexibility, you can always drop to your knees and do one of these variants as well. Again, this is your practice. When you're in class, you need to focus on what your body needs. And when there's multiple students in a class, the teacher can't always see when you're struggling or maybe pushing beyond your limit. So we need your help. You're the MVP of your body, so pay attention to how your body's feeling. And know that even if you used to be able to do up dog last week or months ago, that maybe today you're feeling a little tired. Maybe your back's a little cranky, you moved, you were shoveling, and you need to take it a little bit easy today. Work within those tolerances. So for upward facing dog, the hands stack underneath the shoulders, just like we did before. So make sure that you're on your mat so that the tops of your feet are resting on the mat. So shoelaces are down, and this is important because for up dog, we're actually lifting our thighs and our hips away from the floor, so the tops of our feet is where the weight is going to be resting. So resting the shoelaces into the floor, palms are underneath your shoulders, squeeze the shoulders down and away from the ears, and begin lifting up, pushing into the arms, and then at some point here, you're going to need to slide the body forward so that you can come to the tops of the feet, lifting up the head and lifting up the chest. Okay, so different body shapes will have different problems. If you've got really long arms, your legs may need to slide forward quite a bit. If you've got long legs, you might find a little bit of soreness or a little bit of stiffness trying to do this pose. And now release the knees down to the floor and sink back into a child's pose. Sinking back low into a child's pose, maybe rolling out your wrists. And again, I've said in one of the other fundamental series that wrist soreness is very common in yoga. And also note maybe how your pelvic bone is feeling and know why I was using a little foam piece underneath the pubic bone. So if you go to do some back bending and you find, ooh, this is a little bit sore, know that using a towel or something like that can help take some pressure off of the pelvis. So we'll slowly draw ourselves out of this pose, drawing ourselves to a seated position. So we're going through a few different twists now. So why I did it like this is after back bending, those back muscles are probably on fire. They've been squeezed and activated so much. So something that you can do to relax those muscles is you can do an antagonist contract. So you would contract your abs and do some ab work, which we'll skip right now. We're actually going to focus on the twist, and this is the second thing. So to relax the lower back, you can actually twist and wring out the spine, and that'll help relax your muscles as well. So if you ever get cramping when you're doing some back bending, these are poses that can help you. So we'll also work on a glute opening, which you will see here. So we're starting in a reclined position. So lower yourself back so that your head, your chest, and your torso is on the floor. And we'll create first this hip opening in a figure 4 position. So taking your left ankle to your right knee, and I'm going to spin so that you can see why we call this a figure 4. So upside down, if I lifted my leg, you can see that this almost looks like a 4 shape. Okay, so taking the ankle, left ankle to your right knee, and if your hips are really tight, your knee might be a little closer to your chest here. We're slowly trying to guide it out away from the left shoulder. So paying attention that if it feels a lot of soreness around the knee, you want to make sure that this left leg is activated. So you draw your left toes towards your left shin bone, strongly activating your left ankle, your left lower leg here. And then maybe you begin drawing your right foot up off the floor, drawing that right knee in towards the chest. And pay attention. Maybe you're doing this, or maybe you feel like, ooh, no, I already feel enough of a stretch with my foot still on the floor. And then slowly release that right foot down. Uncross the legs. We'll take the right foot just above the left knee here. Flex that right foot, drawing the right toes towards the right shin. And slowly drawing that right knee away from the right shoulder. And again, stretching here, maybe feeling a bit of opening in the hips. Maybe drawing that left foot away from the floor, drawing that left knee in towards the torso. And then if you do draw the knee off, or the foot away from the floor, you can interlace your hands around the left thigh to help draw yourself in a little bit deeper, or you can use the power of that left leg to help draw yourself in a little bit more. And then slowly releasing left foot down to the mat, uncrossing the legs, taking the right foot down to the mat. And we'll gently windshield wiper the knees left and right. So feet are hip distance apart, and slowly let both knees drop towards the left. And then draw them back through center and draw both knees over towards the right. Now exhale as you draw the knees back through center, and think about inhaling as you draw the knees out to the side. So why we do this, why we exhale as we draw the knees through center, is that exhale engages your abdomen, engages your core to help protect the muscles of the lower back, help to protect the spine when you're doing this twisting movement. So anytime that you're trying to move through this twist, you want to make sure that your core is strong and engaged. This will help protect your back, especially again if you've had some previous lower back injuries. So this is, I would say, one of the gentler forms of twisting. So with lower back injuries, maybe this is where you stay, or maybe you begin deepening your twists a little bit more here. So we'll pause and find stillness in center. Extend the left leg out so that your left heel is on the floor, and draw the inside of the right foot to the inside of the left leg. And then slowly we'll begin rolling onto our left hip, our left shoulder, and drawing the knee over towards the left. Now the right shoulder, to actually get this twist nice and deep, is you want to begin shifting the gaze and the right shoulder down towards the floor over on the right. You can use your left hand on the outside of that left thigh. Draw the left knee towards the left as you draw the right shoulder and the head over towards the right. So you're working in two opposing directions here. So find your core strength to help twist your hips towards the left, and then find your upper back and shoulder strength. Squeeze that squeeze your right shoulder blade towards your spine, which will help twist you a little bit further over towards the right. And then slowly drawing the gaze back through center. Again, exhaling, drawing your knee back through center here. And then we'll move to the second side. So left sole draws up to the mat, and extend the right foot long out in front of you, connecting the right heel to the floor. Inside of left foot to inside of right thigh. Begin drawing your body weight onto your right hip, taking that left knee over towards the right. Your right hand can draw to the outside of your left thigh, and then gaze over towards the left, taking the left shoulder blade down to the floor. Try to pin that left shoulder blade to the floor if possible, and begin shifting the gaze over towards the left. So this is what actually creates the twist, is taking the torso, the upper body part, over in the opposing direction. If you don't shift that shoulder blade towards the floor, you're not going to get quite as deep of a twist. So noticing the difference between the setup of rolling onto the hip and taking the knee out to the side versus actually trying to pin and squeeze shoulder blade and take gaze over towards the opposing side. And notice how that feels different in your body. And then slowly draw the gaze back through center. Exhale, engage your core, and draw the knee back through center here. Take the left sole down to the mat. Draw the right sole up to the mat. And we'll take a deeper variant of the twist. So like we were setting up in that figure 4 position, we'll do a cross of the legs. So this time we'll take the right ankle to the top of the left knee. And then slowly we'll try to deepen the cross. So taking the thighs so that they touch one another, trying to stack the knees on top of one another. So if you were watching, you can see ankle is here, and then slowly deepen the cross, whoop, so that you're sitting in a tight-legged cross position. So depending on hip injuries, amount of flesh, you may find that the knees aren't quite as stacked, but working within your tolerance so that you feel a nice connection of the thighs wherever you are. And know that bodies, if you need to move things so that you can shift and orient a little bit, that's perfectly fine. Now, this time we'll take the knees over towards the left. So we'll let both knees fall towards the left. So find your core as you begin dropping the knees over to one side. And then you can either let the knees hover, or you can let the knees or feet touch the floor. And then find your gaze and find your right shoulder blade. Drawing that right shoulder towards the floor and taking the gaze over towards the right. Now, if you find that this twist is feeling uncomfortable in your body, if you're feeling a lot of pinching through the hips, through the lower back, or anything of that sort, then know that maybe this variant of a twist isn't for you. So draw your gaze back through center, and then exhale, squeeze your abdomen, draw your knees back through center, and uncross the legs. So something I probably should have highlighted before that is that if you have if you've ever had a hip replacement, artificial joint in the hip, a lot of, because you can get the hip replacement like interior capsule from the front, sometimes you can get it from the side. If you've ever been told you're not supposed to do internal rotation with deep flexion, then this pose is probably not for you. So if you have a hip injury, you may find that doing this flexion of the hip plus doing this deep cross and rotation might not feel good, and that's okay. Go back to the variant that we did just before this. So twist on the second side. So left ankle on top of that right knee, and then deepen the cross. Try to connect the thighs, stacking the knees, taking the left foot over towards the right. And then slowly beginning to let the knees draw towards the floor, over towards the right, and then taking the gaze and the left shoulder down towards the floor, over on your left. So your right hand can draw to the outside of the thigh. That can help deepen the twist here. And again, feet can be touching the floor. Your knees don't have to be touching the floor. If you find that the strength of holding your legs in this position is a lot, you can use a block or a pillow underneath your legs to help support you. And know that you can keep those with you in a flowing yoga class as well, modifying the practice to suit you. And then breathing in your twist, maybe noticing as you inhale, you feel some tightness, and on your exhale, you feel like you can twist a little bit deeper. Take one more breath, inhaling. And then take the gaze through center and exhale, squeeze your abdomen and draw the knees back through center here. Uncross the legs, center the hips, center the shoulders, and just gently tick-tock the legs, windshield wiper the legs, like we did before we started the twists. And then find stillness in center and draw yourself up to a seated position, slowly, however you need to get there. Extending the legs out in front of you, heels connecting to the floor, gently taking a forward bend here, forward fold, folding the chest towards the thighs, lifting up through the chest, trying to keep a nice straight spine. And then once you reach the point where your hip hinge, you can't go anymore, then you can relax the torso a little bit here, but stay strong through the core. And inhale, draw yourself back up out of this position, taking a Parakanasana, or Cobbler's pose here, taking the soles of the feet together and drawing the heels close to the pubic bone. Depending on your flexibility of your ankles, your feet, your hips, your knees may be way high up, and that's perfectly fine. Drawing the knees apart from one another, trying to separate the knees, drawing the knees down towards the floor. Find your spine, get nice and tall through the spine, and then hinge at the hips. So we're hinging at the hips if you're envisioning a laptop, so it's two flat pieces. So your upper torso is one flat plank, like you're trying to go forward, and eventually you'll hit a sticky spot where whoop, I can't go any further, and that's your stopping point. We don't need to round the spine or force ourselves to go any further. The chest and the head, the goal is not to touch the floor. As you can see, I'm very far away from doing that, and this is with a lot of practice doing yoga. So know that that isn't necessarily the goal. The goal is that we're trying to open up the hips, and that'll hopefully open up the back, hopefully create some flexibility within our bodies. And then slowly drawing yourselves back out through center, taking a Sukhasana, an easy seat, so gently crossing through the legs. And we'll take another round of gentle twisting and side bending here to help relax the lower spine and open up the back. So I'm going to appear opposite to you. So right hand, left, right hand onto your left knee, left hand behind the body, use it like a kickstand to inhale, lift your chest nice and tall. Exhale, twist. Try to shift the gaze over that left shoulder. Use your right hand as a little bit of leverage. Use your left hand to help twist you a little bit further, but find your core, squeeze the abdomen, and use your muscles to help wring and twist the spine over towards the left. And then slowly unwind here, and then we'll shift and twist over towards the right. So right hand behind the body, left hand onto that right thigh. Inhale, lift the chest nice and tall, and then exhale, twist, pushing into that left hand, using your core to help twist you a little bit deeper, using the fingertips on the floor to squeeze right shoulder blade in towards the spine, taking the gaze over towards the right. Breathing as you're in your twist. And then slowly unwinding the body here. One last thing is we'll do a bit of side bending to help open up the spine in that direction as well. So again, left, right will look different. Take your left fingertips and walk them about 1.5 feet away from your left hip. From here, bend into the left side body, hugging that left elbow in towards the hips and the ribs. So hug the elbow in rather than letting it splay out. So hug the elbow in, and then inhale, shift the right arm up towards the sky, and then bend and reach that right arm over towards the left. And you should feel a nice stretch in through that right side body. So bending over until you feel that stretch there. And then inhale back through center, moving to the second side. So walk your right fingertips 1.5 feet away from your right hip. Inhale, sweep the left arm overhead, and then exhale, bend into that right side body, hug that right elbow in towards the rib, reach over towards the right with the left fingertips. And then inhaling, drawing yourself back through center. And taking a moment here to pause, maybe placing your hands on your knees, taking a moment to pause and see how your body feels. Noticing and paying attention to your lower spine. And connecting here with your body. Especially when we've had injury to an area, we tend to lose a little bit of that connection. We disassociate with the pain, so it can be hard to reconnect with our body. So our yoga practice is trying to create that union between the body and the mind. So taking note of how your body feels right now after doing some back bending and some twisting. And if you are recovering from an injury and you're feeling a certain way right now, I highly recommend that you do a little pain journal. It's very easy when we're in pain to say everything causes me pain all the time, but taking note of how you feel right now and writing down on a scale of 1 to 10 how you feel, it can help you look back and connect with, oh, I actually only felt like a 3 at a certain time through the day. This can help you also if you wake up tomorrow and think, oh no, I did too much. Then knowing that, hey, maybe I don't need to deepen as much, even though I felt good immediately after class or during class, that I woke up the next day and I felt poorly. So these are things to connect with so that hopefully you can move through your day with less pain, with less stress in your muscles, and hopefully live a life with a little bit more fun and happy sunshine rather than being stuck in that pain cycle. So thanks for joining me today. And again, connect with your body, see how you feel today and then tomorrow, and take note of that so that hopefully you can move even a little bit more tomorrow as well. Thanks for joining me, everyone.